Python 2 versus Python 3, presented by Jex. Helpful tips. Alright, Python 2 versus Python 3. Really, the big difference for our syntax between the two seem to be just the print method. It's one of the most noticeable changes from Python 2 to Python 3. In Python 2, parentheses are not required. No exception is thrown, so if you have them or you don't have them, there's no penalty to pay. But that's not the case for Python 3. They are required. An exception will be thrown if they are not present. So for syntax wise, that's the main difference. Other than the other syntax, far as the spacing, that's all the same. Also with the grammar, that's all the same. So the things that you have to look into far as the difference, what I've found from looking at the Python.org documentation, seems to be the modules, and we'll get into that. So module awareness seemed to be the biggest hurdle to leap when you're jumping from Python 2 to Python 3. So in early releases in Python 2, you could use a module that was very popular, popen, and it ran system level stuff, open files, did a lot of your system handling requests and things. But as you see, it was deprecated, and other modules were starting to replace it. And one of those modules was subprocess. So you start seeing later in development of Python, they were already starting to see things that needed to change, right? So another example of module awareness and like going into really of Python 3 is things of this nature where modules are pretty much the same, but they get a namespace change, meaning that the module name changes. And so when you try to import, say for instance, this module that I'm accustomed to using, which is the XML RPC lib, it had changed, right? So when I was in my automation infrastructure, I was breaking on certain systems that had Python 2 versus systems that had Python 3. So that's really the bulk of making the leap, in my opinion. And like I say, I'm pulling all of this from the Python.org website. So like I'll show you guys links at the end to see the website that I'm going to, right, to get this information. So yeah, so this really is the main thing, is always just be aware of what tools you're using and make sure that they're not deprecated or it's changed, or sometimes even arguments, right? Like you may think that you may need two arguments, but it may have went to one, or it may have added three, right, for some apparent reason. So it's always good to check. And like I say, I'll show you that information where to find this stuff at. Right here are the big takeaways that I've seen just in dealing with Python in general. So a few key things, like we talked about earlier, is the print function, the syntax. Another big thing you want to know about Python 2 is end of life. So at the beginning of January 2020, it will be non-existent for as support. So whatever's there is there. The good thing is Python 3 still being developed. Latest is Python 3.9, which is sort of like a dev branch thing. So it's it's growing. It's gonna keep growing. It'll be here. So if you want to continue in Python, I suggest just move to Python 3. It'll be pretty good. The other thing is module awareness. Some are deprecated. Some may have new namespaces. Um, the good thing is though, when you want to do this upgrade or share an environment or however, there is an automation script provided by the Python.org that you can find the source to, and you can run it. And what it does is a translation to show what things need to change for Python 2 to Python 3. Like I say, I'll show you guys that in a second. And here you go. This is the reference where I got all of my information and my reference. So I didn't need to go to any other third party site. I went straight to the source and just skimmed through the documents. They have tons of documentation. It's real good documentation. So I advise just digging through it and see what you find out. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.